Johnny's so happy with
All right.
Zoom.
Oh, you just fucked up my recording. All right, let me go ahead and delete that. All right. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Story Studio podcast. I don't even know what's going on.
He doesn't even mean that.
It's been one of those weeks I've had like really shitty writing week. And so I'm in a bad mood. So I'm the new Dave is what Sean said.
Well, okay, but here's the thing.
Daves.
No, we can't.
Double Dave.
We cannot afford two Daves, which means Dave has to become.
There's got to be a shirt somewhere that says we cannot afford two Daves.
We cannot afford two Daves. We definitely need. We need a little more Johnny from you, Dave. Can you do that?
Okay, Johnny. What 3.0?
Just start getting extreme.
I can't
and
get
intense.
those abs. Intense.
No, but you are good. You are good at intense.
I am.
Could you
not intense
draw?
happiness? Enjoy though.
Could you draw abs on yourself? Because you're quite the artist. Could you just draw them?
I don't know if I have enough body paint for that.
Did you notice that Dave is a smarter artist today?
I did. I was wondering why he waited until there was no smart artist any longer before wearing the shirt. But I do like that he eventually wore
That's
it.
how you do old
the
school.
last summit. That's when I got the shirt.
He was into it before it was cool.
No, I think that's it. He's like
It's
now
retro, like today's show.
Right. It's when you wait for something. Like he's waited the whole circuit. Now it's not cool anymore, and that's why he's.
Well, today we're going to talk about reboots and what we think makes a good reboot and what could be rebooted and all that stuff. But first, reboot the show. First, we need to hear about Dave's tattoo. Go.
Oh, so this was right before the show. I was about to ask Dave, and then Johnny's like, "Wait." I think the world needs to hear his answer to that. So I was just going to ask you that when you do drop the rest of your weight and you're here in Austin, are you gonna get a tattoo?
I don't know if I would now. Like, okay, here's the thing.
I need to go all the way back to when there was this mention of a tattoo, which is the first time I'm hearing it.
Okay.
Yeah, and what would it have been?
Okay, it would have been the worst tattoo idea ever.
Oh, I'm so interested.
Okay, so my best friend Todd, and of course we're going to go to my best friend that died. So let's start this show off with a happy note.
We've only heard of two tragic friends of yours, the one that died and the one that sent you caramel apples.
I've had two that died, thank you.
Oh, coincidence.
One murdered. Okay, so, and not by me. So Todd and I were going to get matching tattoos of the logo of our favorite band at the time, which was Queensryche. So it would have been the logo.
Oh, how appropriate. Queensryche. I had that album. I had one of their albums. I don't know which one. It was the real popular one.
Then you're lame if you had the popular.
What was there? Well, what was the single that was big? That just so I could jog my memory.
Silent Lucidity was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I didn't love that one that much, but
no. Before that, Rage for Order was one we really liked, which was before they hit big with Operation Mindcrime.
Well, it's just like your artist shirt. He's only into things that nobody else is interested in.
So after that, I was going to get Calvin and Hobbes, which I wouldn't have minded having, but
well, it's good because if somebody's going to force you into getting a tattoo, as we're talking about, it's good that you wouldn't mind it. Why are you going to get this tattoo, sir? Well, I wouldn't mind.
But well, I mean, in retrospect, I wouldn't have minded if I had that. But when I look at old people with tattoos, and let's face it, I'm not young. They never look good on old people. It looks like faded canvas of a sad art gallery, and it's like I don't want to be that. I got a lot of extra skin, and when I lose weight, it's just gonna look worse.
Why don't you get a tattoo of folded laundry? And that way, when it sags and gets wrinkly, it just won't even matter.
Can I suggest a new segment that we have on the show? And it doesn't have to be weekly because I think it would run dry pretty fast. But if it was monthly, I think it would be like an everlasting gobstopper of entertainment. So every month or so we could do, it's called Dave's Tropes, or Dave Does Tropes. And it could be a new trope that I have unearthed in editing Dave's stuff. Because there's another one this week. I don't think I've told
Wait,
you about
okay,
it.
so it's not bodily functions, because we've
Not
talked
this
about that. It's
No.
not wine coolers. It's not Architectural Digest. It's not dead children or children in jeopardy. School shootings, interrogations.
No, but this is something. Oh, there's another name that we have to add to the list. Two of them actually.
Oh,
in this book.
fuck. I hate you so much.
I was just trying to remember the
wanna
main
write.
one.
Emma and no, I'm sorry. Becca's the one. We have so many Beccas. We probably have enough Beccas to like shuffle them like a deck of cards. There's so many Beccas.
Man, can you imagine a Becca deck? Can we please become popular and well-known enough personalities that a Becca deck that Dave branded would be a hot selling item?
That's a great idea. No,
Two people would buy it. Me and you.
Look at your daughter's school. You see how many girls have the same name? It's not like I'm reaching here.
Yes, but here's the contrast of Dave. He'll use the same name over and over and over, and one time, and never remember.
Ever.
We have an Amber in 2 books back to back, right?
That's not my fault. I don't even remember Amber.
And so, like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I change all that stuff. It doesn't matter at all. But what's hilarious about this is one time, in like 2 books ago, a character used the word snatch. Okay? And Dave's comment, he changed the word and he said, I'm taking this word out because we use this word in another book and I don't want people to think we have a thing with that word.
Snatch?
No, not us. You specifically. Well, I think you had like a girl using the word. It just felt out of character.
A girl who had been a prisoner with a bunch of dudes. Like it was contextually appropriate. But it's so funny that you'll like home in on a word like that and say, we've used it once before.
Do you remember that time that Dave used
You tend to write very vulgar dialogue.
And over and over and over and over and over. I remember that.
So what was the other trope?
No, the trope is, let's see if you can guess it. Guess that trope. Okay, so the girl is an outcast. Okay. She does something to signify this to the reader with her physical appearance. What is it?
Saying because she cuts?
No. Although that is growing into a trope.
Fuck off.
It is slowly becoming one.
I'm not writing anything anymore.
But no.
I guarantee you outdid me.
I
did last week's. Actually, if you look at my 2-week average, I'm actually doing really good. The problem is that there was a lot. This week I got 500 words. 500. I'm a work in progress. The whole week, 500 words.
Yeah, so Johnny's allowed this week, instead of something cool, he's going to do something fucked. Because it was... Last week, he dropped the mic. He did so many words, it was just staggering.
I set a new record, I believe.
Yeah, like a company record, maybe a human record.
He probably wore himself raw and he had nothing left to give.
Well, the problem was that was one project and this is a new project. And this, I don't want to go into it, but this project has a lot of mental baggage. Yeah.
Yeah, it's complicated. So yeah, it was a standstill. But anyway, no, the trope is somebody who wants to signal to the reader that they're a slight outcast, but they're also kind of arty, and she has purple hair, or a streak of purple hair, or half purple hair.
I hate you so much.
And that's going to be in your head the whole time you're writing.
Every time he tells me one of these things, it's in my head, and it just fucks me.
All right, dude,
at least Sean doesn't mention many things.
Right.
Okay. All right. Wait. Okay, Dave. What you got to do is just look at this. Like it's awesome that you write enough and that you have enough. Like it how is it different than Spielberg or Wes
You can almost write like you're playing Boggle at this point. Just put all the tropes in a bag, shake them, and pull them out in order.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that this morning because I was going through the latest thing that you had sent over, and it's interesting because it is like those on Screen Prism when you go on those YouTube videos and you can watch like a video. It's a Darren Aronofsky
makes a story.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because
oh my God, can you imagine one of those director profile things on Dave? How to know if it's a Dave book?
That's exactly what I mean. It's a David Wright.
3 defecation scenes described.
I don't
bullying.
pissing, yeah, but
abusive stepfathers.
Although there is an infamous Yesterday's Gone shitting in a bucket scene that Dave really overwrote.
Well, right what you know.
It was just unnecessary. I'm like, clearly you're
unnecessary. You mean like it was like an Amish romance or something, and they were going upstate, and then just suddenly there was a bucket shitting scene for no reason.
It's an homage to Two Girls, One Cup.
It was maybe a gangster thriller. Like imagine in Ocean's 11 if Brad Pitt had stopped to shit in a bucket, like kind of like that.
All right, I would like to point out that we have lost one viewer in the last couple minutes.
Well, that was bound to happen. So why don't we get to the topic then?
Only one?
Right. It's
Look,
really...
I think it was pretty specific. I doubt somebody's mom just came home. I think that somebody was like, "Oh, they got to
that show."
But the objection was probably that their boss didn't like it, rather than that they didn't like it. That's what I like to think. Okay, so reboots. I think that there are two kinds of reboots. Ones that might be genuinely cool reboots, and the vast majority, which is that nobody has any new ideas. That's the way I feel. Like I feel a lot of the time.
Well, wait. Cashing in on nostalgia is the only reason anybody does reboots.
Well, no, that's not true. Like,
I think that's why.
But you're so cynical. You're so cynical.
Oh, I'm cynical. Nostalgia sells everything. Look at the Pop Funko shit.
Well, let me give. Wait.
Nostalgia Inc.
Wait, let me give you what I think is the best case for this. I'm going to make.
By the way, I totally want Pop Funko stuff for everything we do.
Can we please do that?
The most shit on it and want it at the same time.
There you go.
I understand that.
Okay, so The Dark Tower, this amazing series of books. I'm like, somebody better reboot that, because motherfucker, did they?
Yeah, they are rebooting.
Totally shit the bed on that.
I don't think that's nostalgia. That's a reboot that needs to happen.
Stephen King on Twitter this week said, I wish Netflix would do Under the Dome correctly. Basically.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was rad. Okay, Under the Dome. Like there are things that can be rebooted that it's not about selling the nostalgia. It really is an affection for the source material itself.
Yeah, it's too soon to reboot Under the Dome, though. Like unless that, especially since that's not even like one of his classics.
No, that was King.
I think
Yeah.
No, I think he's getting the ball rolling.
Okay, you want to bet?
Okay, yeah. Let me list things that are due for a reboot before that.
Why would Netflix?
Salem's Lot.
Netflix sees a tweet by Stephen King and they're gonna say no. They're gonna say yes. Okay, when do we start? How quickly?
No, because CBS just had a 5-season run.
No, I think it was 3 seasons, and it wasn't. It was
good.
CBS.
See, this is actually one of my complaints about reboots. Like, there's so much other stuff, even Stephen King stuff, that would be great to reboot if they even considered Under the Dome, which was, in my opinion, mediocre to begin with, and then it's just like.
I haven't read it yet.
They just did it.
Well, Under the Dome actually makes sense to me as, like, it doesn't make sense as a movie, but it does make sense to me as a television show because you've got.
But wasn't it already a television show?
Well, he said they didn't. They basically didn't do the book. They made their own damn thing. He wants the book done. He's like, I would like to see it.
Well, Stephen King needs to get away from his own visual adaptations. Just stay out, Steve. Let everybody else handle it.
So are you, Dr. Sleep is about to come out. Are you, I know, Johnny, you hated that book, right?
I haven't read it yet.
But
I'm considering going to the theater so that I can piss on the walls. Like, I do that. That's my trivia.
I think it's Netflix, but it's the guy who made Gerald's Game and Haunting Hill.
He's really good.
Haunting of Hill House is adapting.
Yeah, my objection to Dr. Sleep has nothing to do with the movie adaptation of it. It has to do with why did you do it? Like, unless it's a totally different movie. I mean, that was just my opinion. I didn't like the book at all.
Do you think that it has any do you think that it can make a great adaptation anyway?
Well, it was done by this guy named Stephen King, so I think it'll do okay.
No, but I mean, do you think that, like, did you read Gerald's Game before
I did.
Saw it? Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's considered kind of an unfilmable story, right? And
well, I wasn't in love with Gerald's Game when I read it. It was one of my least favorites, and I still didn't. I know you said you felt the fourth act worked in that. I still didn't. That was one of my main problems with it. was the way that reframed everything in what I thought was a less interesting way. It's kind of like the way I feel about The Village. Well, I don't want to go spoiling like everything, but at the end and the twist that a lot of people thought was clever, I thought, it just ruined the first part of the movie for me.
I like The Village.
Yeah, I know. We've had this debate before. Actually, we should watch it together.
Oh, I would do that.
The show together.
Yeah, I would do that. Okay.
So we're supposed to be talking about reboots, though. Are we?
Well, yeah. I'm just curious on that one because, I don't even remember the book. I don't even remember actually if I read it. I may have. There were things that felt familiar when I was reading it, or watching it, but I thought that it was well done for whatever. As a good an eye. So is your problem with Dr. Sleep because of your attachment to The Shining and if you read that all on its own and it was its own story, would it be an okay story, or is it the connection to?
Well, I think that I don't know that I can separate those in my head in any fair way. So I don't know that I can answer that question because The Shining is one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book. But I think that if I remember the story right, it was rather unremarkable. But what I didn't like about it, and this
story are we talking about? Dr.
Sleep.
Dr. Sleep.
What I didn't like about it was the way that it fundamentally reframed what was going on in The Shining and specifically the end of The Shining. So you have this complete story in The Shining, and then what Dr. Sleep did is went and said, that the way that you felt that turned out, well, I'm just going to ruin everything that you liked about the ending of that book or something like it. It's like the author now imposes when you get to the end of a book, you can project your own future. You can kind of self-insert it.
The Shining?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And so when I read this, I'm like, okay, so now King is telling me what happened with Danny and his mother and all this stuff and what The Shining was really about. And it just went and just put, a big old black marker through everything that I had already interpreted about that book. And that book is almost 40 years old by now. What was that, Dave?
Is it like what they did with Star Wars and changing the Force?
Yes, a little like that. But it's specifically what happens to Danny and his mom at the end. You get this picture of what happened in The Shining, and then you're like, okay, well, here's kind of how it goes forward. Here's what it meant. And it didn't really mean any of that. And these shitty thing happened that, whatever. So I don't like that. I don't like when a sequel goes back and rewrites the first.
If they're going to make a new TV show for Stephen King, they should go to The Talisman.
They are.
They are when? Where?
Yeah, it's being. I'm not kidding. It's being done by the people who make The Handmaid's Tale.
Is it going to be on Hulu?
I think so.
Oh, all right. Well, then I'd like that.
Yeah, but you don't have Hulu, right?
No, I'll get it for that.
Yeah, dude, you would like Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid's Tale is right up the Dave alley. It just is.
It is like a euphemism.
Well, no, it's like there's a tent city in Dave Alley, and Handmaid's Tale is there, and then you're just right in the middle of it.
The horrible carnival barker of hell.
Yeah, it's dark stuff. Okay, so what's something, Dave, that you would like to see? Okay, what about that cliffhanger show? Because you always talk about that with such nostalgia.
So are we doing reboots or are we not? Because I just need to mentally.
Reboots and remakes. So would you be okay with that, or would you say that's just for nostalgia, or it's okay if it's your nostalgia that's being tickled?
Well, I don't know if I would do the idea of this show. Cliffhangers was a serialized TV show back in I think the 70s, maybe early 80s. And it had 3 or 4 different storylines, but they were really they're cheesy. One was a vampire story, another was an Indiana Jones before Indiana Jones story. I don't think those stories would translate today, but
you'd have to do it, modern, right?
Yeah, but that's not the show I would do. I would do the show from 94, I think, 93, 94, that was on UPN, Nowhere Man.
That's the one you keep talking about. You've talked about that forever. So would that be a worthy reboot?
Oh, hell yeah. And that would be so timely today.
Okay, so there are worthy reboots then.
Well, that wouldn't be for nostalgia's sake, because I think I and Bruce Greenwood might be the only 2 people that remember Nowhere Man, and he was in it.
Oh, well, why don't you use that in the network pitch? So what's the audience like this for? Well, there's me and there's this other guy who was in it.
The thing of it, like every now and then there's a show that's on TV, and you're like, if only that show came on now, like HBO's Carnival. Nobody watched it when it was on, but if that was to have followed Game of Thrones, it would have a whole new audience and people would have fucking loved it. But it died early.
Carnival did die early. So, okay, Johnny, what's something that you would like to see rebooted, either as a film or a TV series? Something you grew up with that's like.
Well,
okay.
I'm gonna go the other way because I don't know. Nothing's like at the top of my head, but I mentioned this earlier, and I was going to mention. I just wanted to mention on the air is I think like that feeling of they're rebooting that, why the original was really good or something like that. And the example that I gave was RoboCop. And it was like, well, so that wasn't a very good movie. That's actually why they shouldn't have rebooted it. Like Paul Verhoeven makes good, bad movies. You know, Starship Troopers is kind of stupid.
I would like to see a serious Starship Troopers like as a series because those insect aliens.
Well, they could do that because the original Heinlein book is a lot more political.
That one I could see. That one I could see being really, really cool.
But they did it twice with Verhoeven. They did it with Total Recall.
Galactica good.
No, they did it with Total Recall, and then they did it with RoboCop. And they made a fundamental mistake both times. The only thing that made those movies what they were is that they were over the top.
They were Verhoeven, and Verhoeven is just like more blood, more ridiculous. That sort of thing he does with the fake commercials.
Yeah, which is awesome. Like Johnny and I are cribbing that for something we're doing now because that's awesome. But like
once the 6000 SUX commercial, come on.
Once I'll buy that for $1, right? Like that's awesome. But once you take that away and it's just this neutered PG-13 thing, it's like, what is the point? It doesn't serve any master. That's why like both of those movies are so tepid.
But I could see Starship Troopers. I think it just depends on the hands that it's put in because, I mean, to Dave's point, and you just said that the Heinlein book is serious and political. It's not campy like that. So that I could see being really, really cool. Actually, you know what's an interesting example that kind of parallels something like Starship Troopers, although in a different way, was Battlestar Galactica. So, I mean, the original is sorry to offend any of you hardcore long-term Battlestar Galactica fans, but the original is kind of a joke. And it's almost...
I loved the original as a child.
Yeah, it was just trying to ape
and I will say
that's all it was.
The original Cylon outfit or costume is still the best one. I love the original fucking Cylon.
Well, I know that awesome looking. I know that I avoided Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, for the longest time because it was called Battlestar Galactica. And one of my friends even said that would be considered the best show on TV if it wasn't called Battlestar Galactica, which I tended to agree with. Because, number one, that's like a Quaxelborg sort of name. Like, that's a really geeky, deep sci-fi sort of thing that normal people wouldn't think they'd relate to. And second, it was piggybacking off of, it was rebooting really kind of a travesty of a an early sci-fi show that didn't hold up very well.
How about Westworld? Because
I haven't seen the original, but I did
see the original and the remake.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, I love the remake. I only see the first season. I haven't seen
it's dated. I mean, the original is really dated. It's a cool concept, but I kind of see why they took the name. I mean, there's a little bit of cachet with the name, not much. They could have called it something else, but I like that they took the roots and did something with it. So let's do that. Let's say good idea or bad idea. Westworld remake, good idea or bad idea?
Good.
Yeah, good. But it's interesting because you can only I'm realizing I think I can only say in retrospect because I probably would have said bad it's like you said with the Ocean's 11 thing a few episodes back.
Right. Ocean's 11 on paper, terrible idea for a remake, but Soderbergh kind of knocked that out of the park, oddly. All right.
Do you guys remember when they rebooted Jurassic Park and just pretended it was a different movie?
I do. Do you remember? Now, how do you feel about the Disney live action reboots of their animated classics?
I haven't seen I haven't seen bits
I
of it.
have no nostalgia for any of those. So.
Well, but nostalgia or not, like, how do you feel at Disney as a corporation?
It's not for me. If other people like it, fine. I'm not big into musicals unless they're super depressing.
But they're not even musicals. Like The Jungle Book, actually.
I am not into musicals unless they're super depressing. Do you guys want to start a Dave Super Depressing musical review blog?
I love that idea.
Like
actually.
Phantom of the Opera or Les Mis or something. Yeah, that's about,
I knew an original musical called Everybody Dies.
All right, so like Kat in the comments just said like Beauty and the Beast was fantastic, and Tammy in Slack the other day was talking about how fantastic Beauty and the Beast was. She saw it a bunch of times. Marie on the other hand,
everyone I know hated that movie.
Right? No, that's what I was gonna say. Marie on the other hand, like, really hated it. So like there are people who really love what they're doing there, people who don't, people who liked them, but now there's diminishing returns and they're seeing it as more and more cash grabs. So it's interesting.
Speaking of Beauty and the Beast, the CBS show Beauty and the Beast, I would remake that.
With Ron Perlman?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was
love that show. It's like a soap opera, but I that's one of my guilty pleasures was soap opera. So
yeah, but that was Game of Thrones too, right?
They did remake it, like WB or whatever, one of those, not whatever the hell it's called now. Yeah, one of those teen drama things. So I couldn't even watch 5 minutes of it. I would like a serious remake.
Okay, how about a show like or a movie like Goonies, where clearly they could.
I didn't like the original Goonies.
That's right, because remember it had Corey Feldman in it.
Right, I do remember. But hold on, wait, just listen to this pitch. So what if there's like because the Goonies could totally traffic in like 80s nostalgia easy. It basically Stranger Things, took a page out of there. But what if you had it, because Goonies, if you're going to reboot it, a movie to me would be terrible. I'm like, don't reboot the Goonies as a movie. That's an awful idea. But as a TV show set in this quirky little, Astoria in the 80s where this golf course is going to move in and you have a little more character there.
Yeah, if they had a good story, like if they had good kid actors, like Stranger Things has a great cast, then I would watch it. I didn't like the fucking actors in the movie. You're kind of a monster, but yeah, you're a monster for not liking Goonies. There's something wrong. They're cheesy as fuck. They're just horrible kid actors. Sorry.
but are there any consistent things that define a good reboot?
Thanos was in that. Fuck you.
Who was?
Thanos.
Okay.
Josh Brolin.
Okay. So?
They're not shitty kid actors. They were like, it was a good movie.
Did you see
then? When I saw it, they were then, okay? Maybe they're all great actors now, but back then, acting wasn't the same level.
It wasn't the same thing. Do you see the pitch meeting for Guardians of the Galaxy where there's going to be this really powerful guy named Thanos? What's he going to do? He's going to sit in the throne, so he's not going to do anything? No, he's just going to sit in the throne and make pronouncements. All right, so, but I actually don't feel like there's anything that's consistent. It's not like certain properties can or cannot. Like I would say any property, good, bad to begin with, whatever, could be adapted well or poorly. Like I don't think that there's any direct correlation. It depends. Well, like Haunting a Hill House. I mean, how many Hill House stories have we seen? And look what they did with it. Like, it's just amazing.
Right. I think it's a matter of kind of, we talk about this internally all the time about subverting expectations. So if you're going to do something, how do you make it different? And you could do that in a terrible way like they did with The Dark Tower. I know how we'll subvert expectations. We'll cram it all into 90 minutes, right? That's obviously a terrible way to handle it. But taking something and expanding it like they did with Hill House.
Like the Lawnmower Man.
The Goonies, like something where you could tease at this larger world. So another example of The Neverending Story is another 80s, a lot of people have nostalgia for that movie. It's classic. It does some really cool things with storytelling itself. I don't like the idea of remaking that movie. It seems like there's a lot of great fantastical fantasy movies out there, but if they did that as a TV show and you had the world, in real life, and this kid trying to adjust to school, and this, this fantasy world where they're affecting each other. That could be a really interesting show. So it's not a reboot of Neverending Story. I would object to. It's more like, what are you going to do with it? Like if they were going to redo the other way from television to film, if they were going to redo Friends, I would think that'd be a terrible idea. Don't reboot Friends. But if they could get like some script writers to actually write a 2-hour movie and do something really interesting there, I'd be very curious. Okay, what would they do?
Well, you need to bring something new, right? Just recapitulating the same things then is ridiculous.
I think the difficulty of something like Neverending Story, anything that involves kid actors, you have a very narrow window.
Yeah.
Because they're going to grow up and the actors are going to age out. So if you're trying to tell like a very specific story, then like Stranger Things they're lucky these kids are growing with the story and it works. But like some stories that doesn't happen because.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. But think about how many times you've seen a movie, and they're movies that they've talked about remaking too. And it's just like, why would you make that? Because all you're doing is an echo of this thing before, where the movie that teased at this much larger world and you could explore it. So another example would be The Abyss, right? The Abyss.
Are they remaking that?
They've talked about it over the years. It's just like, oh, wouldn't that be cool to remake?
I really like that movie.
But like, if they remade The Abyss, we've seen that story. What are they going to do?
More money could they spend on that movie?
Like what are they going to do? But if they had it something where they spend a whole entire season trying to figure out what's bottom there, and then maybe season 2 starts with these creatures, underneath, and we're really seeing a different perspective. That could be really interesting. But just a flat remake of these things, I don't get that.
Along the same lines, I think Johnny might agree on this. I'm kind of tired of the Alien movies. I would love an Aliens TV show.
Yeah, I mean, I think that once they splintered off into the whole Prometheus world and stuff, it's just kind of been like, whatever.
But if you were to go back to the original sort of these people on a spaceship don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dave.
I totally think that could work.
Yeah, it's if you're going to reboot things, I think you want to ask 2 questions. What is it that made the original so special? Like, why is it worth rebooting? And nostalgia is really not a good enough answer, because that is enough for a lot of people. But we're not making classic things when we do that. So what is it that really magnetized people to the material in the first place? But then I think the other equally valid question is why? Like, why is this worth remaking in 2019, 2020, 2000, whatever?
And not just because the studio's lazy.
Right. Like, how could this become a classic for tomorrow? And that's the difference between, I think, like where Disney does the live action remakes. Some of them have been big hits and a couple have been misses, because when they're saying something new or making something different, they're interesting. But when they're not, when they're just a retread or kind of more like a cash grab, we talked about this. This isn't really a remake, so it's not quite the same, but it is like milking a franchise, where we talked about the Han Solo movie and, why that failed. I think it's because these 2 questions weren't answered correctly. So I think the math is the same. The formula is the same. What is it that made Han Solo special and therefore worthy of his own movie? And, how are we going to make it different? And I think Disney failed on both of those questions, because there's a lot about Han Solo, and some of it was in the movie, but a lot of it was missing. And when you're focusing on like how he got the dice on the Millennium Falcon and how he met Lando and how he met, Chewie, like these are not what makes Han special. They're just like line items on a to-do list of Han Solo movies.
Pat Vansel disagrees, says I actually like Solo. And Autumn says one reboot that's been terrible has been the Equalizer movies that were a reboot of the TV series, but they did not capture what was strong. I actually haven't seen the second one yet.
Let me clarify on Solo, because
I haven't watched that yet. So
yeah, I didn't dislike Solo, but I think it was a pale imitation of what that movie could have been. it was lazy, and they had a chance, and a great chance, because the original people, Disney didn't do themselves any favors by hiring Ron Howard. Ron Howard is like, I mean, he's fine, but he doesn't make movies that are just like, you have to see them. He's a craftsman. He will go and he will do his things, but they're like 80% of the way there.
Didn't he make Big?
No, that was Gary Marshall.
I thought Ron
or Penny Marshall. It was one of the Marshalls. I think it might have been Penny. Yeah, I think it was Penny Marshall. Anyway, now I lost my train of thought.
Well, they have to add something new, because I don't know if I mean, there's no way I'm the only person who does this, but there's a bunch of times when they'll announce a reboot and my first reaction is annoyance. Like, I'm not even curious. I'm just like, motherfucker, that was really good. Like, it's almost like I'm protective of the original. So it's interesting to sort of ask the question of what would turn me around on that, or what would turn people around, what would make people not object to. So for instance, you mentioned Alien. If somebody were to remake Alien, the first movie, I'd be like, okay, I've said over and over, I feel that that's one of those movies that has really, really, really stood up. It's like, it's 40 years old now, and it's barely dated. Like Tom Skerritt's hair is the most dated thing, or, like just a little tiny bit. But I could see, you basically say, well, what are they going to do with it? What are they going to do? Don't just give me the same story again. Don't just give me Ripley on the Nostromo, with the alien and LV-426 or whatever. Like, I want to see, I guess it's what like the Prometheus movies could have done, or honestly, maybe a good example is take the original Tim Burton Batman, not all the sequels, but the original, and then they did, Nolan did Batman Begins, and it was like, okay, well, it's different. It's a darker, it's a grittier take. It's his origin story.
That's
how
the
is
only
it different?
Batman movies I actually liked for the Nolan.
Yeah,
ones.
so
every other one of them.
Yeah,
and I liked him.
Back to Kat, she's saying it was a different genre than the other Star Wars movies. It was a space caper, and the other ones were space opera. So yeah, but like Rogue One was like a World War II movie. It's not the genre; it's that Disney played it safe. So Johnny and I have a friend who actually knew the original script writers and saw the original script and was telling us some kind of amazing stories about stuff that happened behind the scenes there. But the original directors got fired off the movie. And they had a great script that was written by the guy who wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark and Empire Strikes Back, Lawrence Kasdan. He is the guy who made not just Indiana Jones, but made Harrison Ford with that look. And so they took a lot of chances with that script, and it was a really, really cool, movie idea. And Disney wanted to play it safe, and they pulled him off, and they got Ron Howard in and changed a lot of stuff. And I'll tell one little story, and I think I've told this on the podcast once before, but it's a really great example of like how you are kind of missing the point of like, this is what made Han Solo, and by you I mean Disney. This is what made Han Solo special. This is why this movie is worth telling. So the original opening had Han very much like in the actual
shooting Greedo.
No, very much in, he's like in basically what's like a Detroit car factory, but like a space version. And in the original script, what was going to happen is it just opens, just a cold open, and there's like a heist. And you just see him miserable. He's just going through his work day, just like...
Miserable's tight.
Miserable's tight. It reminds me of like the beginning of Joe versus the Volcano.
I hated that movie so fucking much.
Well, it is a pretty terrible movie.
No, yes, it is. So he's just, he's just miserable. There's a heist. And all of a sudden, like, these guys just come in and they've got guns and they're all dressed in black masks. And they just, it's totally a heist. One of them gets shot down right in front of our main character. And he looks down and he's got like a split-second decision to make. And there's no question what he's going to do. He's got to do it. This is his only escape. So he reaches down, he takes the guy's outfit, he puts on the black mask, takes the gun, and just joins them. All right. And then they finish the heist. They escape onto the ship. Everybody's there. And then they're all standing around him. And they're like, okay, Han, get us out of here. And that's when he has to become Han Solo and fly them out of there because they think he's this guy because he took the guy's mask, which Disney's like, you can't just say that he stole his name, but like that immediately is like everything we love about that character. And there's something kind of amazing meta wise about this main character who has to inherit the mantle of this person who has been Han Solo before him. And
you'd also wonder what his real life was.
Yeah, like
just does something like that.
There's so much there. Like that's a great opening. That's a movie that okay, now we understand why this guy got this chance to have his origin story told. Like that's exciting, but it's not safe. So I don't think reboots should be safe. I think reboots should take chances because
that's interesting because I think the very definition of a reboot in most cases from a studio's perspective is it's safe. I think that's the reason they do them.
Yeah, but I can't imagine that. Like anything that, another really good one, and I hope they do this the right way. They're talking about, yeah, they're talking about rebooting The Matrix. And
that's one where my immediate reaction is annoyance.
Yes. So now it's Zack Snyder who at least
he's got a good eye, but not necessarily a great storytelling all the time.
Yes. But what they're talking about doing is adding on to the Matrix mythology rather than retelling that story.
Yeah, see, that I'm okay with.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're going to, like, I think that world does need a visual stylist. So normally I would bristle at Zack Snyder being put in charge of something where story is really needed. But I think visuals are just as important as story.
Daisy said that's like the Princess Bride.
Well, that's what I thought. I was thinking it's a Dread Pirate Roberts thing.
No, it is. It is a Dread Pirate Roberts thing for sure. But like, can't you just see that story? Can't you just see like, oh, all right, it's more engaging.
I would like, going back to nostalgia, and what I thought was a good movie back then probably doesn't hold up. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, well, they rebooted that and did nothing new, and apparently it was like one of the worst things ever.
Yeah,
I would want a TV show, not a movie.
I think that that is something
get rid of Freddy Krueger, the actor that played him.
I was gonna say get rid of Freddy Krueger. Okay, I have a horror movie pitch for me. Why? Yes, I do. We're gonna remake Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, good. People are really excited to see Freddy again. Oh, he's not in it. He's not. Oh, okay. Oopsie.
No, you don't have the same actor. I mean, you tell it with a new, younger cast, and but don't make it like a teen thing. Make it, something that everybody can enjoy, not like with like all the latest good-looking horrible
fun for the whole family, Dave style.
Yeah.
What do you think Dave's reception is? Something everybody can enjoy.
I see Nightmare on Elm Street as like a Stranger Things for grown-ups.
Yeah,
I actually
it could be. There's two distinct. There's two sorts of teens. There's the ones where you have the good-looking actors that all the kids will watch, but they can't act, and then you have the ones that can genuinely act and everybody can enjoy. So I don't know. And I can't think of it. I can't think of any good examples because I don't watch the former shows. Like when I see bad acting, I'm just like I can't watch like that. I don't know if Riverdale's any good because I looked at it and I was like, I might watch that, but no. So yeah,
no. Unless you really like gangsters with hardcore names like Papa Poutine, you're
oh fuck that.
Dave, watch one episode but record yourself watching.
Dave reviews.
Dave reacts.
Dave reacts to Riverdale would be pretty rad, actually.
There was something that I was thinking about in terms of reboots or whatever, but I don't remember what it is. So, but it would have been really interesting, I'm sure.
I recently watched the most recent Halloween movie, which
I
heard that was a good reboot.
Yeah, well,
is that the one where Jamie Lee Curtis is like she has a daughter and it's her?
Yeah, well, she's protecting her daughter and her granddaughter. And there were things I loved about it and things that I didn't. It was good. It wasn't as it didn't feel like I really love the first 2 Halloween movies, and after that, forget it.
Second one's the one in the hospital, right?
Yeah, and I fucking love that one so much. Because I saw that one first because I wasn't allowed to see the first one because I came out in like 78 or 79, so I saw them in reverse order. But in the new one, Jamie Lee, it treated her character, with some respect. Like she was dealing with basically PTSD from what happened, and they retconned some stuff, and it was all right for me. But it had some really good fan service moments. Like there was a moment where somebody fell off the same house. They fell over the edge, gone. But they did it in like a clever way. And the other thing I really loved about it was they had characters that weren't like they had these, just brief characters. Like they had 2 cops that you knew they were going to fucking die. But they're sitting there having a conversation. It was very Tarantino-ish. They're talking about sandwiches for like a full 2 minutes. And it colored it in. Like they weren't just people set up to die. They actually seemed to have a life before this movie started. And I liked that. I liked that they put that sort of care into it. There were some things I didn't love, but the ending had a really fuck yeah moment, and I won't spoil it. But I was like, I would have loved to have seen that in the theater just to see how people reacted, because it was really fucking awesome. So that I enjoyed. But there were parts I didn't like, so I'm kind of iffy on that.
I think that when you're rebooting something, you have to understand like what it is that you're rebooting. So here's the example that I was thinking of, and maybe the example will make more sense than just trying to explain it, is so Halloween. If you're going to do anything with Halloween, you need to understand that that's a John Carpenter film. It's not just a movie about a serial killer type, who's immortal, blah, blah, blah. No, that's a John Carpenter film. So don't try to do John Carpenter's movie without John Carpenter, like his just kind of weird 70s synth music and his,
Does the new one feel like a John Carpenter film?
Closer than the others, yeah. And I love the theme song for that. And it was way better than Rob Zombie redo it.
See, I would actually steer entirely away. I'd say make it nothing like a John Carpenter movie.
It was paying homage. Like even I think the title cards and stuff, like everything felt very.
How about They Live? Is that worth a remake?
I would love to see that as a remake, but as a TV show, not a movie.
And serious, like they would have to take it serious.
And they have to do The Rock. They got to get another wrestler.
Oh my God! A They Live remake with The Rock. I'm down.
Well, we met that person.
A wrestler that connect.
Production company. We should go find her and pitch her. Say he got a pitch for Dwayne.
What was the other? Fuck! I just thought of one that I would love to see. God damn it! Go on, carry on.
Well, I think we're at the end of the show.
And I can't remember. Shit.
Yeah, everybody, we tried to get Dave to do worst show ever because, he has the ability to declare them like a national emergency, but he hasn't been feeling it recently. So
my family's been home.
Yeah, it's not feeling it is because they're right in the next room over and he wants to loudly complain about them and can't.
But why don't you just do like distracting a dog, like just throw something across the house and they go, quick, we got to talk for like
can't you bitch about fire?
No.
I may Amly Faye Uxay.
Dave runs out into the other room and is like, your sister's house is on fire. You have to drive there right now. And then comes back into the office. Okay, I'm ready to go. So anyway, but if you, we are at 3 p.m. Central Time now recording these live. So if you want to get like email reminders of live shows, you can go to sterlingandstone.net/live show. And you can find out when you can join us live. You can join these fine people making comments and all that stuff. Anything final to add? No?
I'm trying to friggin' remember the show I thought would be awesome to remake. Fuck.
Okay, that's going to be his something cool next week.
Was it They Live? Was it On the Heels of Halloween made you think of something?
How about Critters?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you know what would actually be a fun
this is the after show. I already said goodbye. Here we go.
All right, how about for next time we think of like sacred franchises that should never be rebooted because they're just
Well, but that's exactly the sort of thing that I was raising through some of this. I just think it depends. Like I wouldn't like the Matrix rebooted, but
do you think there's anything that is too sacred? Like, for example, one thing that I mean, well, no, but off the top of my head, something that I definitely think is like it's really dependent on the original, and anything would just be weird. Is like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Because Matthew Broderick is Ferris Bueller. Like a remake of that movie seems weird unless they're doing maybe a musical or something.
No.
Like then it's
no. Yeah, I was actually going to say anything that is like overwhelmingly dependent on the creator. So Halloween, I just mentioned, is a John Carpenter movie.
Or
I don't
think specific cast too.
Right, like say an art piece. Like what's Primer? I mean, not that anyone would be remaking Primer, but you know what I mean. Like that's.
I can see that as a TV show.
I could see that as a TV show too.
Yeah, maybe. So
maybe
Upstream
Color as a TV show.
And it's like 96 episodes.
Yes.
I'm really hoping for that Human Centipede.
3 hours.
What have either of you seen 3 O'Clock High? It might be before your time.
Is that John Cusack?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
No, Casey. I forget his last name.
It's not John Cusack. Huh?
I can't remember how to say his last name, but yeah, it's about this kid that's going to get his ass kicked at the end of the school day. And it was really well done back in the day. I don't know if that could be remade or not.
Yeah, I liked it.
Very funny and sort of heartwarming.
How about a reboot of Clarissa Explains It All, or Parker Lewis Can't Lose? What do you think?
I think Parker Lewis Can't Lose is a great idea.
Silver Spoons.
They did that though. They did a reboot
of that.
No, it wasn't Silver Spoons. It was Richie Rich. Richie Rich. I've seen.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. Oh, with Macaulay.
I don't. No. It was recent. It was on Netflix.
They need to stop doing that.
Yeah, they do.
Richie Rich. When was Richie Rich a franchise? It was worth rebooting.
Okay, Airplane. You couldn't remake that for so many reasons.
Yeah, no. I think Johnny's right. Like, if it's creator dependent or cast dependent. Like, I could see them remaking The Godfather, for example, but that'd have to be a TV show because we're so married to those characters.
He said no, Sean.
Yeah,
I think that's a declaration about Sean himself. No, Sean. We've had enough. No more.
Episodes with no Sean.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would really want to get to know the family. But to Stacey's point, if you're going to reboot The Godfather, why not just do a different mob family?
I thought of the show I would like to see redone.
What?
Wise Guy on CBS. That was so fucking good.
I don't know that show. What show is that?
Oh my God. Kevin Spacey was in it, although that used to mean something. Ken Wall, he played an undercover cop that infiltrates the mafia. And they had like 2 or 3 seasons, and it was so dark and so awesome. It's not streaming fucking anywhere that I know of. So I don't know if it holds up. I haven't seen it forever. I just have the memories of it being really good, really dark. And, you got a cop undercover in the mob, and that was just fucking awesome. And I loved it. I would like to see another show like that. There might be other shows like that. I don't know. Someone can suggest to us.
2 Girls, One Cup reboot.
A reboot.
You can't remake a classic.
Oh well, good thing that episode that we made sure to end it on the right note, because for a while there was it was going to end on the wrong note, and now it's ending on the right note. So
we're actually quality for a while. Thank you.
What does this show stand for? Sometimes people ask us. This is what? This is the through line. All right. So thanks everybody for listening. sterlingandstone.net/live show if you want to join us live, and thank you for those of you who did join us live or didn't join us live, who are dead. I don't know, all of you guys. Thanks, everybody. We can have Bernie's reboot. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace out.